The world didn't end with a bang, it ended with a timer. In this city, silence is the only thing we truly own. Everyone walks with their head down, watching the amber glow on their wrists. We call it the Soulmate Window. I am Aryan. My life is a collection of dusty books and unanswered questions. Today is my 25th birthday. My clock just started. 23:59:52. By this time tomorrow, if I haven't found the one, the system will initiate the reset. I'll still be breathing, but I'll never feel the spark of love again. To be honest, I prefer the silence. I spent the first 6 hours of my window in the back of the city library. It's the only place where the ticking feels quieter. Outside, the world is a frantic race of people searching for their match before the light goes out. But here, it's just me and the shadows. I sat near the window, watching the rain hit the glass. I wasn't looking for anyone. I had accepted that some souls are meant to wander alone. I just wanted a little more peace before the reset took my heart away. The heavy oak doors of the library swung open. A woman stepped in, drenched from the rain, her breath hitching as if she had been running from destiny itself. She didn't look like a miracle. She looked exhausted. As she passed my table, a sharp melodic chime echoed through the silent room. My wrist clock turned from a cold amber to a brilliant, pulsating blue. I looked up, and for the first time in 25 years, the world had color. Her name was Zoya. We stood frozen, two strangers linked by a digital heartbeat. Zoya looked at her wrist, then at me, her eyes filled with a strange mix of relief and terror. "We only have 18 hours left," she whispered. Her voice was soft, like a secret shared in the dark. In this system, 18 hours is supposed to be enough to sign a contract and move on. But looking at her, I realized 18 hours wouldn't even be enough to learn the story behind her tired eyes. We sat by the window where I had spent my morning in loneliness. We didn't talk about the system or the laws. Instead, she told me she liked the smell of old books, and I told her I liked the way the city looked when everyone else was asleep. For a moment, the clocks on our wrists didn't matter. We weren't matched subjects. We were just Aryan and Zoya. But the blue light on our wrists was a target, and the city was starting to watch us. The peaceful silence was broken by the sound of heavy boots outside. Zoya's face went pale. She confessed that she wasn't supposed to be here. She was a high-tier citizen, promised to a powerful man to keep the city's elite bloodlines pure. The system pairing her with a simple librarian was a mistake, a glitch they would want to fix. If we went to the Soulmate Center to register, they wouldn't celebrate us, they would separate us. "I'd rather forget everything than be forced to love a lie," Zoya said, her hand trembling. I took her hand, my first time ever touching a soulmate, and my clock beat even faster. "Then we don't go," I replied. We walked out of the library, not towards the center, but away from it. We stepped into the neon-lit streets, two rebels with glowing blue wrists, choosing to spend our remaining hours as free humans rather than prisoners of a perfect match. By midnight, the memory police were everywhere. We found shelter in an abandoned art studio on the edge of the city. The air was thick with dust and the smell of dried oil paints. Zoya picked up a piece of charcoal and drew a small, imperfect circle on a blank canvas. She said, "That's us, a circle that hasn't closed yet." We sat on the floor sharing a single piece of bread, realizing that hunger felt different when you weren't alone. 0600, 6 hours left. The sun was beginning to peek through the grime of the studio windows. Every second felt like a physical weight on my chest. We talked about the things we would never get to do, traveling to the mountains, growing old, seeing the seasons change. It's funny how you only realize the value of a lifetime when you're forced to fit it into a single day. I looked at Zoya and realized I was already mourning her. The peace of the morning was shattered by a siren, not a distant one, but one right outside our door. The memory police had tracked the signal. They didn't want us, they wanted the glitch to end. Zoya looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. Aryan, if the clock hits 0 before they catch us, we lose our memories. But if they catch us now, they'll take them by force. I stood up and locked the door. They haven't caught us yet.
The door groaned under the pressure of the memory police. I grabbed Zoya's hand and we climbed through a narrow ventilation shaft just as the wood splintered behind us. We dropped into a dark alleyway, our hearts hammering against our ribs. The blue light on our wrists was now our greatest enemy. It was a lighthouse for the hunters. I took off my scarf and wrapped it tightly over both our wrists, dimming the glow. For now, we were ghosts in the machine. We moved through the lower levels of the city, a place where the sun never reaches and the clocks of the poor are often broken. Here, people didn't care about soulmates or the system. They only cared about survival. Zoya looked at the crumbling walls and the tired faces. "They told us the system was for our happiness," she whispered. I looked at her, the neon signs reflecting in her eyes. "The system isn't for happiness, Zoya. It's for control." We found a small rooftop garden hidden between 2 skyscrapers. It was just a few patches of grass and some dying flowers, but to us, it was paradise. We sat there, watching the flying transports zoom past above us. 04:30:000. 4.5 hours left. Zoya leaned her head on my shoulder. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The silence wasn't lonely anymore. It was full of everything we couldn't say. Zoya pulled a small silver locket from her neck. She opened it to reveal a picture of her mother. "She went through the reset," Zoya said, her voice trembling. "She used to look at me and not even remember my name. I promised myself I would never let that happen to me. But now I'm facing the same fate." I realized then that the reset wasn't just losing a lover, it was losing your very soul. To get out of the city, we had to cross the Great Bridge, but it was heavily guarded. We found an old maintenance tunnel running beneath the structure. It was damp and smelled of rust, but it was our only hope. As we walked, the water dripped from the ceiling, echoing like a giant clock. Each step was a second lost. Each breath was a choice to keep moving forward. Halfway through the tunnel, we were stopped by an old man named Marcus. He was a former system engineer who had escaped the reset by living in the shadows. He saw our covered wrists and smiled sadly. "A blue signal," he muttered. "I haven't seen one that bright in years." He handed us 2 lead-lined patches. "These will block the signal for 2 hours. It's all I can give you." With the patches covering our clocks, the signal disappeared from the police scanners. We emerged on the other side of the bridge, near the edge of the Forbidden Zone, a place where the city's power didn't reach. But the sun was now high in the sky, 02:15:000. The amber light was waiting to return. The reset was no longer a distant threat, it was standing right in front of us. We found a small, abandoned diner on the outskirts. I found an old can of peaches in the pantry. We sat at a dusty booth and shared them, laughing at how such a simple thing could taste like a royal banquet. For those few minutes, we forgot we were fugitives. We were just 2 people on a date, enjoying a sunny afternoon. It was the most normal hour of my life, and the most precious. The lead patches began to fail. The blue glow started to leak through the edges, flickering like a dying candle. We knew the police would find us soon. Zoya looked at the horizon, where the green hills of the Forbidden Zone started. "If we reach the border, the system can't trigger the reset." But the border was miles away, and we had less than an hour. The sound of sirens returned, louder and more aggressive than before. They had found the diner. We ran through the tall grass towards the forest, the wind whipping past our faces. My legs were burning, and my lungs felt like they were on fire. I looked at Zoya. She was struggling, her breath coming in ragged gasps. 0045000. The countdown was screaming in our ears. We reached the edge of the forest, but a wall of black vans blocked our path. The black vans formed a semicircle, their headlights cutting through the morning mist like cold, robotic eyes. We were trapped at the edge of the forest. The leader of the memory police stepped out, holding a device that hummed with a low, vibrating frequency. "It's over, Aryan," he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. "The system doesn't make mistakes, it only corrects them." I tightened my grip on Zoya's hand. The blue glow on our wrists was now so bright it was blinding. Zoya stepped forward, her voice surprisingly steady. "Take me back," she said. "I'll go to the official match. I'll do whatever the system wants. Just leave him his memories. Don't reset him." My heart shattered. She was willing to live a lifetime of misery just so I could remember the one day we had. I pulled her back. "No," I whispered. "A life without the memory of you isn't a life worth living." Just as the police moved in, an explosion rocked the nearby diner. It was Marcus, the old engineer from the tunnels. He had followed us and set off a localized EMP, electromagnetic pulse. For a few seconds, the police scanners went dark and their vehicles stalled. "Run!" Marcus screamed from the shadows. We didn't look back. We plunged into the thick, dark woods of the Forbidden Zone. Inside the forest, the air felt different, heavy, ancient, and free. There were no neon signs here, no humming sensors, but the countdown didn't care about the forest. 00150. 15 minutes left. Every step was a struggle. Zoya tripped over a root and we both fell into the damp leaves. We lay there for a moment, staring up at the canopy of trees. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "I never knew the world was so big." We reached a high cliff overlooking a vast, shimmering lake. Marcus had told us that the reset signal was broadcast from the city towers. Once we crossed the water to the other side, we would be out of range. But there was no boat, no bridge, just the cold, deep water and the ticking on our wrists. 000800. 8 minutes. "Can you swim?" I asked. Zoya looked at the dark water and then at me. "With you, I can do anything." We didn't hesitate. We jumped. The water was ice cold, shocking our systems and stealing our breath. We swam with everything we had, our eyes fixed on the distant, dark shoreline where freedom waited. Behind us, we could hear the drones approaching the cliffside. We reached the shore, shivering and exhausted, pulling ourselves onto the sand. I looked at my wrist. 1 minute. The amber light began to flash violently, a warning that the reset was initiating. We were so close, but the signal was still reaching us. The world began to blur. Zoya's face started to fade in my mind, like a photograph left in the sun. 0003, 0002, 0001. The world turned white. A high-pitched hum filled my ears, and then absolute silence. No bird songs, no wind, no heartbeat, just nothingness. I felt a cold hand let go of mine. I closed my eyes, waiting for the void to take the memory of Zoya's smile, the smell of the library, and the taste of the peaches. I woke up on the sand. The sun was warm on my face. My wrist was empty. The clock had vanished, leaving only a faint circular scar. I sat up, my mind a complete blank. I knew my name was Aryan, but I didn't know why I was wet or why I was on this beach. I looked to my left. A woman was lying there, her hair tangled with seaweed. She looked like a stranger. I stood up to walk away, to find my way back to the city logic.
I took 3 steps, but then I stopped. Something in my chest felt like it was being pulled by an invisible string. I looked back at the woman. She was waking up, looking confused. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, wet piece of paper, a hand-drawn circle that wasn't closed. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't remember her name, but I remembered the feeling of her hand in mine. I walked back to her and reached out. I don't know who you are, I said, a tear escaping my eye. She smiled through her own tears. I've been waiting for you. The system had deleted the data, but it couldn't delete the